So we don't want to take these things for granted. That's for sure. Okay, well, I'm going to begin with this verse on page 7, Srila Sridhar Maharaj's verse, if they have been. We can chant that together, if anyone like to. Vande Shri Guru Gaurango Radha Govinda Sundaro Sagunau Giyate Chata Gita Gudarta Gauravam. Bowing down to the holy feet of Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, and Shri Shri Radha Govinda Sundar, all accompanied by their associates, I sing the glories of the hidden treasure of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Okay, and then going back ahead to where we were, we're on welcome to Sulalita's also joined us. And so we are on chapter 2, Dandavad. Oh, and here's Cody, our new friend, just tuning in now. Welcome, Cody.
Hare Krishna.
Our new Austinite friend. So we are on maybe Chintamani, is it easy for you to share a link for the download? Okay.
Yes,
so,
I'll post that in the chat. Give me
cool.
1 moment, please.
So we're gonna Chintamani Devi's gonna post a link to a PDF for those who don't have a copy. You can follow along. Hello, Cody. And so we are on chapter 2, we've reached verse 41. And if you have the book, it's page 36. So this is the verse. Vyabhava satmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahushaka yanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. O descendant of the Kuru dynasty, resolute intelligence dedicated to me is one-pointed. I am its only objective, but irresolute intelligence is splayed by endless desires for mundane enjoyment. So this is a very, very important verse and very significant verse to contemplate. And it's something that we experience, we can very practically experience, that when we are in that mode of material consciousness, in the mode of selfish enjoyment, then we can experience that our consciousness is very scattered, right? And that because every sense pulls us in a different direction, right? It can become overwhelming, very bewildering and exhausting, actually. It can become exhausting, right? The eyes pull us in one direction, the ears pull us in another direction, the tongue pulls us in another direction, the nose, the genitals, then different mental ideas, they all have some like a power of attraction, some gravitational field, and they're pulling us, they're calling us. Like if you're entering a marketplace, especially in India, we've experienced, and everyone's calling out to you. Oh, madam, over here. Oh, madam, over here. Come look at this. Come look at this. And in some places, you also have these like shop owners. They have these people they employ, and they'll go out in the market and they'll try and canvas people. Oh, you come over here to this store. Oh no, you come over here. Sometimes they'll follow you like for 10 minutes, until you agree to go with them. So this is what we experience in the pull of our senses and the material environment, that they're calling at us. And so this displays our consciousness. It makes our consciousness very scattered. And as I said, it can be very bewildering and very exhausting. But when we're in spiritual consciousness, things are much more simple because we're not focused on ourselves. We're focused on what is the central interest. What is the higher interest? What is the interest of the divine, of Krishna, the Lord, of God, of the saints? What is their interest? And everything becomes much more simple. sometimes that's something I appreciate about the way that I live my life. There are many things you could say about the way I live, but as a what's the word? A monk. We don't like the word monk, I've been told. Monk's not cool anymore. But as in the renounced order, let's say, one of the things I appreciate, just on like a very simple, basic level, one of the things I appreciate about it is it simplifies things. When I get up in the morning, I don't have to decide like what matches with what. I just wear the same thing every day. I don't have to worry about, men chasing after me or me chasing after men. I'm just not dealing with it at all. Anyway, that's just one example, which isn't the best example, because ultimately in the plane of devotion, it's not about renouncing, it's about dedicating. But that's just one little slice from my life. But when we are in that consciousness, like, how can I serve the higher plane? How can I serve the divine? How can I serve the saints? Things do become much more one-pointed as it's being expressed in this verse. We can eliminate, so many complications in our life if we make this the priority. And I also wanted to share, what is supportive of my spiritual interest, right? It's like we say we have would this be a verse for memorizing? Yeah, definitely. This is definitely a verse on the list for memorizing. It's sometimes, for example, in business, right? If someone is practicing spiritual life and they're involved with business, then they may have so many different things they have to decide. They may have so many offers coming at them. And if they consider it from a financial point of view, then, certain things may be more appealing, other things less appealing, and there may be many different things pulling at them. But if you say, well, hang on, what's actually better for my spiritual interest? Then you may eliminate a lot of these decisions. Okay, maybe this will be good for me financially, but it won't be good for my spiritual life. I'm just going to eliminate that. And I also wanted to share, this is a commentary by one of our teachers of the last, maybe around 300 years ago. Vishwanath Chakravarti was his name. And he wrote this very wonderful commentary on this verse. And we hear that Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, who's the founder of this organization, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, who miraculously came to America at the age of 69 years old with a few dollars in his pocket, and single-handedly began this huge international organization. We hear that the commentary on this verse greatly inspired him, and it acted as a kind of epiphany for him when he came to take up this mission. And so this is the verse. Sorry, this is the commentary in this verse. And he uses the word sadhana here. And welcome to Dana, who's also just joined us. And he uses the word sadhana here. Sadhana refers to practice, to our spiritual practice. So he says, my sadhana is to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, to remember and glorify him as instructed by my guru. That is also my goal, sadhya. It is my life sustain, and this is also a beautiful point, and it's also, I feel, a demonstration of the superiority of spiritual culture over material culture, that there isn't necessarily a distinction between the practice and the goal, but the practice is so beautiful that eventually in the realized state, the practice and the goal, they merge into the same thing. What I'm saying is, it's not that we're practicing with the idea we're going to get something else, but we're practicing, and the end result will be that we're following the same things, but with greater realization, greater joy, greater depth. So like for example, one quote one of our friends likes to repeat of Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, I think it was a reporter asked him once, so what do you get out of this chanting anyway? And Prabhupada replied, you get to chant more. So the practice itself is so joyful that eventually the goal merges with the practice. They ultimately become one and the same. And this was something that hit me one day. I remember some years ago, I was reading one of our scriptures, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there's one description there of how Lord Chaitanya, the avatar of divine love, he was attending a ceremony of worship, which we call arati. And it was just mentioned, kind of in passing in this scripture. He was attending this worship, but it was like an epiphany for me, because I was thinking, I go to arati, and Lord Chaitanya is also going to arati. It's not like he's doing anything different from what I'm doing. It's not like he's in like some exclusive secret club where they all, have gold plates that they eat off of, and the billionaires club, and they're like the 1% elite, and they've got all these special facilities the rest of us don't have. It's not like that. All the things that we do, they're doing too on the perfected platform. So that struck me so much. Whereas here, often the mentality is, I'll work really hard so I can make a lot of money, and then I can do what I want, right? And there's a strong dividing line between these two things. I mean, like, how many people in this world don't like their job? Okay, no doubt there's some people who love their work, but for the most part, it's a drag, and there's a distinction that's made between doing what you don't want to do in order to be able to do what you do want to do. But in the practice of bhakti, in the practice of devotion, it's a very holistic, complete, full practice, where the practice and the goal, they're ultimately one. That what you're doing, the work that you're doing, is so joyful that becomes the reward. The only reward that you ask for is to have more to do. There's a beautiful prayer of Lord Chaitanya, Prema Dana Vina Vyarta Dadija Jivan Dasa Kori Vetan Mori Deho Prema Dan. He says, a life without the wealth of prema, divine love, is very poor. So, so he's saying, like, the only wealth in life is actually divine love, prema. And a life without that is a truly impoverished life. That is a truly poor life to live. So then he says, so please, I ask you, please make me your servant. Please engage me in your divine loving service. And as the reward, just give me prema, give me more love for you. And it's also implied there, give me more capacity to serve you and love you, because prema doesn't just mean love, but it also means this intense desire to dedicate, to serve, to offer oneself. So it's like you say, you go to get a new job and you say, I don't want a paycheck. The only thing I want is more work. Because I love the work so much. All I want is more work. Like, that's what we're talking about here. That's how joyful this is. Ultimately. So go back to this commentary. My sadhana is to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, to remember and glorify him as instructed by my guru. That is also my goal, sadhya. It is my life-sustaining medicine, for I cannot give up the sadhana, the practice, and the goal, sadhya. This is my most desirable object, my duty, and nothing else is my duty. Nothing else is desired, even in dreams. There may be happiness or sorrow. Samsara may be destroyed or may not be destroyed. Samsara refers to the entanglement of birth and death. that's perpetually going on in this mundane world. So he says, samsara may be destroyed or may not be destroyed. That is no loss for me. Let there only be resolute intelligence fixed in pure bhakti. So what's being described here is a very powerful, infallible position to be situated in, where one is not dependent on any external factors of the environment. If you think about it, persons in this world who are generally considered to be powerful, what is their power actually based on? It's based on very unstable elements like money, popularity. These are all, I can think right now, some of my good friends who like overnight lost those things. Someone who was, very popular became very hated. Someone who had a lot of money lost everything. I can think of several friends like that. So these are the things that people generally place their bets on, that are generally considered to put one in a place of power, but they're all very, fragile things. They're very subject to destruction, to loss. But this describes a truly powerful position where one's inner well-being, one's inner welfare is not dependent on any of these flickering elements of this temporary external world. So this is real strength. This is real power. He's saying, I may continue to, I'm not even asking to be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. That whole thing may carry on. Doesn't matter. I may be happy, I may be sad. Happiness or sorrow, either may come. It doesn't matter to me, saying, because he's situated in this infallible position of devotion, to the guru, to the saints, to the Lord, to the divine. It's a very powerful place to be. It is independent. It is beyond. It is transcendental to the whole flow of this temporary plane. Temporary material plane. It is subtle. It is a subtle thing, but it is the most powerful. So we hear that Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, as I was mentioning earlier, when he read this verse, it acted like an epiphany for him. And because his guru had expressed this desire that these teachings, this divine message be taken to the West, to the Western world. And so he decided to take this up, even at the age of 69 years old, and so this deeply inspired him. It was one of the things that really moved him to take this up. So a very wonderful verse. Does anyone want to share any thoughts at this point, or should we can carry on with our reading? Okay.
I'd like to share a thought.
Yeah, please.
This one-pointed attention, this has been a real topic in my internal world about how that there's so much Maya out there. Like, it's so easy to get distracted, especially with the endless, this connection we have to technology and the instant sort of, they could just vortex. Like, I could be literally on my way to do something, and then my phone does something, and then I get distracted immediately from what I'm doing. That to really have, for me to have more one-pointed attention in my practice, in my sadhana, requires me to make like a firm boundaries with things like phones off, Jaffa bag in hand. Like, I have to get really, like, I almost have to fight harder for having to try to attempt to have one-pointed attention because of the ADD or whatever, just the nature of the world nowadays and how we've been socialized now with this technology and distractions. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chintamani. That's absolutely right. It's absolutely right. We do depend on higher grace to support us, and that mood of prayer is so helpful. But we also have to make some effort on our side, as you're describing, and know when to, turn the phone off and draw those boundaries, as you said. Yeah. Yeah, it's a struggle we all go through. There's one verse our Gurudev liked a lot. I'm trying to remember, Kala, Kali, or Kalina, Inji. It's saying that in this age, right, this age that we're in, the age of Kali, the age of quarrel, as described in the scriptures, it is particularly difficult to practice. And there's this one verse saying that, oh, now it is the age of Kali, and the senses are very strong. You know, the senses are very strong. So how will I be able to make, and it also says the path of bhakti, the path of devotion is strewn with thorns. There are thorns on the path. How can I cross this path? So yes, it is very challenging. And on top of that, as you're describing, with the development of modern technology, there's so much more stimulation for the senses too. It's a terrible combination. It's a terrible combination. It's almost like, what hope do we have? But we have to put in our effort, and then we are also depending on higher grace, and we have faith that we can overcome these things. So, okay. Anything else from anyone? Or should we carry on? Okay, here's some more verses from this divine text. So picking up verse 42. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadantya vipaschita vedavadadata parta nanyadastiti vadina kamatmana sargapada janma karma falapradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishvarya gatim prati bhogaishvarya prasaktanam tayapahita chetasam yavasayatmika buddhi samado na viniyate. Trigunya vishaya veda nishtraigunyo bhavarjuna nirdvando nitya sattvasto niryoga kshema atmavam yavanarta udapane sarvata samputodake tavan sarveshu videshu brahmanasya vijanata. O Partha, Partha is a name for Arjuna, the son of Prita, which is another name for Arjuna's mother, Kunti, generally known as Kunti. O Partha, unwise persons, not knowing that the chief directive of the Vedas is the attainment of the supreme truth, are fond of interpreting the fleetingly enchanting words of the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas as ultimate. Their hearts are filled with desires, and their goal is heaven. They advocate the many sacrifices and rituals that yield wealth, worldly pleasures, and high birth. Thus attached to enjoyment and opulence, deluded by these flowery words of the Vedas, they do not attain the resolve to dedicate themselves to the Supreme Lord. O Arjuna, the Vedas deal with the three modes of material nature by accommodating fruitive action and liberation as an allowance and incentive for persons who are ignorant of the true objective of the Vedas. But you, Arjuna, give up duality and all pursuits for gain and preservation. Stand ever in the plane of truth, and by the yoga of wisdom transcends the modes of nature. The objective of the Vedas is transcendental. Without fruitive action or liberation, O Arjuna, follow the transcendental path of devotion to the Lord as taught by the Vedas. As all the purposes served by several ponds can be served better by a large lake, similarly, the fruits of worshiping the various gods by their respective Vedic prayers are surpassed by serving me. The knower of Brahman, who thus knows the purport of the Vedas, fulfills all life's objectives. Okay, well, there's a lot here. we can unpack this. So, as is being indicated here, the Vedas, they are casting a very wide net, and they are trying to inspire persons of all different levels of realization to get on the ladder of spiritual life. And welcome to Nahush, sorry, Narotam, who's just joined us. So the Vedas are casting a very wide net, giving a chance for everyone to join this path, moving forward. It's like a train, like whatever point you're at, you're welcome to get on, and there's accommodation, there's allowance for whatever stage of realization each individual is at. And so, for persons of a lower mentality, they're kind of given some impetus, what's the word? They're given, it's like a reward system. Yeah, you should chant the names of God. You should chant the names of the divine, because you'll get rich. It'll be good for your business. Incentive. Yeah, thank you, Marie. Yeah, Marie is really good with articulation. Incentive. Yeah, they propose all these incentives to encourage persons of a lower mentality to take up some type of spiritual practice, or at least be good people. At least don't kill people. Some people are at that level, they're all, the Vedas are so kind, it's like, if you think about it, like some of these statements, like thou shalt not kill, it's like, wow, like the scriptures, like they actually have to deal with people like that. And they're like accommodating people like that, like, because we have people like that in this world. Exactly, you have to say the obvious thing. Yeah, a few days ago I was mentioning how there's one list given by one of our teachers, or it's given in one of the scriptures, maybe, I don't remember the exact source, but different things that are given, that should be avoided when in front of the deity in the Lord's house, in the temple, you should avoid. And so one of the things on that list is, don't lie when you're in front of the deity. Don't lie in front of the Lord. And which I find very funny, because the implication is that it's okay to do it when you're somewhere else. Because they're dealing with people like that. Like, you can't get them to stop doing it all the time. That they're not ready. That's too big of a jump. So it's like, at least start with this. Don't lie and cheat when you're in front of the divine. Keep some respect there. And then by following that, then some growth, by honoring that instruction, some growth will come, and they can progress to a higher level, right? So anyway, the Vedas are very broad, and they're accommodating persons of all mentalities. And so there are incentives for one class of persons. And so here, Krishna's kind of giving this warning, like, don't be distracted by these flowery words, don't be distracted. Keep your focus on the real goal. We're here, we're playing the long game here. Don't be distracted by short-term goals, short-term achievements, short-term gain. Let's think in terms of our long-term welfare. In the big picture, how are we going to come out the best that we can? That's what's being said here. So don't be distracted by prospect of material gain. That won't get you anywhere ultimately, doesn't mean anything. So this line, I love this line here. Give up duality in all pursuits for gain and preservation. Stand ever in the plane of truth. It's very rousing. Stand ever in the plane of truth, and by the yoga of wisdom transcends the modes of nature. Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattva Sto. Another for memorization, Chintamani says, you could do, wouldn't be the top of my list, but yeah, it can be on the list. At least I'm just talking about my list, okay? This is maybe a little arbitrary.
We want your list, Vishaka Didi. We're studying Bhagavad Gita under your direction. So yes, just let us know. I'm keeping track and sending it to our chat group.
Okay. No, you can. I mean, you can. It is a very, and actually, I also kind of base my list on the verses that were quoted by our guru and our grandfather guru. And this verse, I don't think I've really heard them quote, maybe one or two places. But I believe Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, I believe he quoted this verse more. So, yeah, my list is mostly based on the verses that have been really emphasized by Srila Govinda Maharaj and Srila Sridhar Maharaj. But no, this is a really nice verse. Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattva, this Trigunya Vishai, Trigunya. This is referring to the three material modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. These are the three energies of this world that are manipulating us and conditioning us towards different mentalities, different activities. So the Vedas are largely accommodating persons under the influence of these modes of nature and giving them some incentive to practice spiritual life. But then he says, Nishtrai Gunya Bhavar. So, but you, Arjuna, you be free from these gunas, from these material energies, these material modes of nature. You be free of that. And Nirdvandvo, be free of duality, Nitya Sattva Sto. And you be ever eternally situated in sattva and truth. So it's a very nice verse. Yeah, we can put it on the list. We'll put it on the list. And then what's also being referred to here is how, in the Vedas there are many gods. Sometimes we use the word demigod. I'm not sure if I really like that term. But Deva, Deva is the word that is used in Sanskrit. These deities, they are in charge of these different elements of this world and different objectives of this world, wealth, power, knowledge, all these things, weather, all these things are controlled by these different devas, these different deities. So it's like you go to Goddess Saraswati for the knowledge department, you go to Goddess Lakshmi for the wealth department, Lord Shiva for medicine, and so on and so forth. They all have their different departments. But there's also a central office, that's Krishna's office. So the recommendation here is just go straight to that central office. You'll cover everything in one go. Sometimes you experience that in some organizational systems, right? That, you may be a bit lost dealing this department, that department, but then you may find there's actually one central person or program you can connect with, and they just cover it all for you. They take care of everything for you. Sometimes you find systems like that, organizational systems like that. So it's like that. So Krishna represents that central head office. Krishna is that central head office. And if we connect with him, everything else gets covered, just by default. He's got our back. And here, this example is given. This is perhaps a bit of an outdated example of village life example. All the purposes served by several ponds can be served better by one large lake. But that's the idea. So why go to all these different gods? Why go to one god for wealth and another for education, etc., when you can just go to one central place and get everything in one go? It's a very practical thing. And the other analogy that is often used is given in the scripture Srimad Bhagavatam is that of watering the roots of the tree. Yathataror mulani shechanena tripyanti tatskanda pujopa shakaha pranopahara chayatenjanam tataiva chuteja. Aha, okay, I like Marie's analogy. Press 1, press 2 for this or that, or just stay on the line, talk to the operator. Yeah, I like that analogy. Because it's like that sometimes. I just need to talk to a person, right, who can just deal with it all in 5 seconds. I don't want to deal with all this bureaucracy and this and that. Just let me just talk to a person, okay? So yes, this analogy is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, the scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, that you don't water the various leaves or branches or flowers or fruits of the tree. You water the root of the tree. And by doing that, every part of the tree will be nourished. So this is the nature of bhakti. We are approaching the center. And by doing that, all interests will be fulfilled. And welcome to Bhakti Jim. Happy to have you with us. We've missed you. Okay, any other thoughts on that anyone wants to share, or should we continue on? Well, this next verse, it's quite an important, this is definitely one for the list. Verse 47. And this is one of the principal what's the word? This is describing one of the principal principles. That's one of my pet peeves as an English student. People mixing up principle and principle. These are two different things. But it's describing the foundational conception of karma yoga, right? Nish is more precisely, nishkama karma yoga means selfless action, selfless duty, which is the first yoga that is being described in Bhagavad Gita. This chapter 2 is kind of like the summary of the whole of Bhagavad Gita. And one of our, actually, Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, his name for this chapter was Contents of the Gita Summarized. Because in this chapter is like a concise representation of all the principal points that are made in Bhagavad Gita. And so all the yogas are represented here to some extent. And so here, the teachings of karma yoga, selfless action, selfless duty, is being described. So we can chant this. And please, everyone, feel free to chant along if you would like to. Karmanye vadikadaste ma phaleshu karachana ma karma pho hitarbor mate sango swakarmani. So I think I'll just, as it is one of the more significant verses, I'll just pause with that there. Your right is to your work, never to the fruits. Be neither motivated by the fruit of action, nor inclined to give up action. So 3 main points that are made here, which constitute the principles of karma yoga. So first of all, that your right, your adhikar, your right, what you were qualified for is karma. And here, remember, Sanskrit's very broad language. And so, words, have different meanings, different connotations. And so the word karma, no, we have a way that we use it in the Western world, right? Which generally means a reaction, right? Something that you did, a reaction to something that you did previously. That's normally how we use the word karma. But the word karma actually just means action. And I feel like it shows what a brilliant language Sanskrit is actually, that within the word action, it's already implied there's a reaction. So the words are used for both. Like there's it shows what a profound way of seeing the environment. Like already when you're going to do something, there's already the consciousness of there will be a reaction. So like another nice example of that is the Sanskrit word for meat, mamsa. What is that mamsa? If you break it up, ma, sa, me, he. And the idea is that like who I am killing now and eating on my plate, later he will come and eat me. It's a very concise language. So there's that recognition from the get-go. Like I'm inflicting some disturbance here, and I will have to face that consequence in the future, the consequence of that. So it is the same with this word, karma. That, whatever action we are performing, it's implied there will be a reaction. So the word can be used for both. And then it can also mean duty, it can also mean your duty or work as it's translated here, your activity, your work, your duty. So there's some broadness in the usage. So what your adhikar, what you are qualified for, your right, it is to doing your duty. Whatever that may be, whatever we may ascertain our duty to be, that we are a parent, or we are a spouse, or we are a doctor or a teacher, or a bus driver or a street sweeper, whatever it may be, a nurse. I have this particular duty. And how do we define duty? Something that is making a positive contribution to the environment. So there's some standard. It's not that, my duty is to kill all ignorant people. No, that will not count. Or my duty is to deface public property. No, that doesn't count. It's something that's making a positive contribution to the environment in line with the teachings of the scriptures and the teachings of the saints, right? There's some standard here. So this is we have a right to this. What don't we have a right to? Whatever the results of that are, we don't own that. We don't own the results of our action. Why? Because we're living in an intricate network of other beings, of other energies, of other entities, of superior entities, who are also acting within the environment. So, for example, if we go to plant some seeds in the garden, then, we all suffer under the influence of the ahankara, the false ego. And so the ahankara makes us have this mentality of possession, right? These are my seeds. This is my land. This is my water. This is a very limited and miserly and ignorant way of viewing things, actually. Very ignorant. Did we invent seed? Did we create those seeds? Did we invent water? Did we create water? No. Did we create the sun, and the rays of the sun that nourish that seed? Did we create the whole process of growth and germination that takes place? Are we really the source? Are we actually the source of our ability to even think about doing these things and carrying them out? We didn't even do that. It's like, what did we actually do? we had an idea, which was actually a blessing anyway. And the environment allowed us to do it. And the environment caused that seed to sprout and everything else, the fruit to grow. Like, we had a very tiny part to play in this whole transaction. Very tiny. If you really think about it, all the different factors, like you have like a big spreadsheet, all the different factors that allowed this seed to grow. Like, our input will be some tiny little pinprick on there. Like, think about like how many different energies are at play and allowing all these processes to happen. Like, we just represent one tiny little part of that. So therefore, how can we say, like, I own that? I own those flowers, I own those fruits, those are mine. How can we think like that? No, it is a foolish way to think. So, our duty, our right is to carrying out our duty. Our duty is our duty. Our right is to our duty and not beyond that. Of course, it doesn't mean that, that we may have to adjust our duty and how we carry out our duty based on the results. We use common sense. We will apply some intelligence, but it's that spirit of possessiveness, of ownership, attachment. That's what we need to separate ourselves from. And then the third point that Krishna makes here, this is also like a warning. At the same time, don't be tempted to give up your duty, right? Because this will be the natural inclination. Since I'm not entitled to the results, then what's the point in doing it? Then we should just, all go on welfare and be lazy and do whatever we want. And let the kids raise themselves. The students will figure it out. No, we're not allowed to do that either. No taxation without representation. That's one way Srila Sridhar Maharaj discusses this. And of course, I'm not criticizing the methods of government. I'm talking about, like, in our approach towards the divine, we don't want to have that mentality. That in considering our spiritual duty, we don't want to have that mentality. Let's see, Marie has another comment. Moses, Martin Luther King, I've seen the promised land, but I won't get there with you. Oh, I love that. I've seen the promised land, but I won't get there with you. That is so beautiful. Right? I'm going to do all this work to help you reach the promised land, but I know I'm not going to make it. I won't enjoy that with you. I'm going to sacrifice myself so all of you can see the promised land. That's so beautiful. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. This is a very noble way to live, where our own interest is not a part of the equation. It's not part of the calculation. No, it's a very noble, very high way to live. Let's just consider what is the right thing to do, what is the best thing to do. And whether or not I get a share of that, that's not even a consideration. It's a very noble way to live one's life. So amen to that. So this is a very powerful message here. Hi, Kunti. We're just about to wrap things up. Say hello to our beautiful group here. This is our dear sister Kunti. She's hard at work in the gardens here.
It's hot.
Yeah, it's hot. This is our new friend Cody. We met in the park yesterday.
Dandavats, Cody. Come help us in the garden. It's really nice, medicinal, all organic and edible.
He's giving a thumbs up.
Yay.
And there's back to Jim. And that. So this is a very oh, were you gonna say something, Jim?
I'm just curious where you are. I joined late.
Oh, okay. I'm currently in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Actually, we're about an hour, 45 minutes outside of the city. It's Dripping Springs, it's called. And we have a very beautiful piece of land here, and there are a lot of garden projects which Kunti heading up.
It's wonderful. As usual, you always speak to the exact thing that I'm going through, which is Krishna's arrangement, his mystical power. Because I was raised in Krishna consciousness by a bunch of the earliest devotees of Prabhupada, and some of them had no material life when they found the Swami. And so they all just abandoned the material prospects and joined him and followed him around the world for years, right? So this kind of imprint of renouncing is kind of came down in how I learned Bhakti Yoga, right? And every once in a while, I get disgusted with certain aspects. And I just want to run off with the devotee somewhere. I think I've mentioned this to you before. And I have to like stop and go, no, you have a duty to perform. You have a dharma. And so sometimes it's really hard to like be in this material world when you've sampled that other realm, that you've had a tiny, tiny taste. So, and I think Prabhupada addressed this. He says the brahmacharis are all very simple without worrying about householder life, but they miss the companionship, and then the householders wish they could be the brahmacharis. So I'm a fledgling in this regard, but it's always so reassuring and so nurturing to hear what you're covering in your presentations, and they're always spot on. So I'm always, even if I grab the last few minutes, it's always like propels me for weeks.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Jim. You know, this is actually just part of human nature, right? It's like a pendulum that we always swing between the tendency for enjoyment and then the tendency for renouncing it, right? You know, one is just the reaction to the other, right? And it's only when we can kind of like balance ourselves by situating in that mood of offering, of dedication, of service, and only then, you know, will we be peaceful. But thank you so much for sharing that. Your insights are always very joyful to hear.
My struggles are real and they yield joyful insights.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's so true, you know. I was saying that to my mother recently. You know, I went through some difficult experience, and I told her, but I gave 2 talks. I got 2 talks out of it.
The irony is my astrology business is taking off. I've never been so busy giving readings and talks and presentations.
Oh,
and
really? Okay.
But it's like I have to learn to see the blessing of Krishna coming through it, because sometimes it's because it's not directly linked to bhakti the way I would like it to be, like more purist, I guess. I go, there's no, it's like chewing the chewed, sarva charana charanam, the sugar cane, you know, it's like, all right, now what? But there is always a pearl there. And it really boils down to me being humble, like just grateful, like, okay, you're really blessed, dude. Why don't you just get with the program? So thank you again. I appreciate your wonderful view of things and the way you present the material. It's always refreshing.
Mhm. Well, you know, the real test of whether we're still on track is whether we still have taste, to have association and to hear the message. You know, so I think the fact that your business is doing better, but you still want to tune in, that's a very good sign.
Oh, good. All glories to Prabhupada. He's my eternal beacon. And now I'm really starting to relish Sridhar. It's just so wonderful. And it's like a whole nother group of the family that I never got to meet before. Now I'm meeting all the other side of the family. coming down from Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, this great lion guru who just sent these rivers of bhakti out into the world. And it is just, I'm so fortunate and grateful that I found my way to Krishna consciousness. I don't know what would have happened to me. I really don't know. I would have been lost. I was able to stop drinking and giving up cannabis and all these other things because of the power of the holy name. And so I just hope to give back the tsunami of what I've been given. That's how I always feel. Like every day it's like, oh, I got to do something more. I think that's a good thing. I don't ever want to lose that, like you said. So, to have that inner, like, I'm not enough yet. I've got to do something more and more for my spiritual master. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing.
Although it's hard sometimes. But someone just typed in the chat, the hardest thing of this material world is living in it. Haribol, Jai. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Jim, for sharing. That was very beautiful. I also, I keep forgetting, but I've been meaning to share an invitation. We have our ashram in California, SoCal, near Santa Cruz, near San Jose. And there's going to be a 4-day gathering happening at the end of July. The main dates are the 21st to the 24th of July, but everyone's welcome to come a couple of days earlier, stay a little longer if they like. So yeah, there will be camping facility. We can't offer rooms and beds to everyone, but we will have camping facility. It's a beautiful ashram. So yeah, we'd love it if any of you can come and join us.
That's about a 4-hour drive for me. So that's not bad at all.
Okay, yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Thank you for that. I'll put it on my calendar.
Okay,
I put it in my calendar too. I'm so gonna go.
Yay. Yeah, Ganga Leela came like a month or two ago, and she was just in ecstasy the whole time, connecting with the land and the temple. It's beautiful to see.
It's a gorgeous area.
So maybe if any of you want to come, you can connect with Chintamani, and she can put you on the list.
Yeah, I haven't seen her or Jayadev it's been several years now. We met up at Nakula and Rasapriya's place up in Ukiah many years ago, and I just immediately gravitated to both of them. I just love them both. They're just like super cool devotees. So that'll be, if we're not in France, my father-in-law passed away, and we have some things that are blocking our traveling right now. And so we're waiting for some documents. So if we're not in France helping my mother-in-law, we will be there, man. That'll be great. I would just love to get the association. The last association I had with devotees was this Northern California chanting camp up at Mandala Springs on Cobb Mountain, which was just great. It was just awesome. So it's great. Krishna has it just so that I really hanker for the association. So it's like when you finally have it, it's like diving into an oasis where everybody gets you. They know exactly what you're going through. They know exactly what you're trying to do. And it's like, you don't have to explain yourself to anybody. You can just be. And I think that's something, and everyone just loves you for just being a devotee. And it's the greatest feeling on earth to have that unconditional acceptance and welcome and encouragement. And, it's just, there's nothing like it. And we're meant to, I think we're meant to be in that all the time. So it's good. It's all good.
Well, I'm glad this is being recorded. We might use that as an advertisement for this gathering.
Hey, cool. Please accept my humble obeisances, Vishaka Dasi.
Oh, mine to you.
All glories to your seva.
Oh, thank you so much.
Haribol.
Haribol. Well, we're running out of time here, and I know everyone has other things to do. So can we ask Gangalila to kindly pray us out for today?
I don't really ever have a format, but thank you for that honor. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for your service, Shaka. And you know, nice to meet newcomers. Welcome here. It's good. And especially Cody, you look so nice, surrounded by real trees there, so green and so nice. And yeah, we can chant 3 rounds of the Maha Mantra, and may we be carried by not the words we heard, but what the words we heard are really doing. I feel it's always touching and moving my heart. And I feel like it's like encapsulating me, and it keeps me like it's like a nice capsule. So it keeps my sensors from trying to direct, because that's how you started Vishakadi. It was really, I could so feel that, you know, how we are pulled by our senses in every direction. So may we always return to that center of love within, and where Radha Krishna reside. And so, and may that make a net, and may we stay connected that way to each other, and we can finish with the 3 rounds of Maha Mantra. If you unmute yourself, I think it sounds great, even though the technique doesn't matter. It's just still as beautiful. Let's envision, you know, millions of people chant with us, and let's send it where it's needed. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Rama,
Hare Ram,
Rama
Ram,
Rama,
Ram, Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Ram, 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 Hare Hare.
Hare.
Jagadish Ki Jai, Sadhusanga Maharaj
Jai.
Ki Jai.
Thank you so much, Gangalila. That was so beautiful expressed as always, and hoping you all have a spiritually uplifting week ahead, and look forward to next time. Right.
Haribo.
Haribol.
Jai Shaka Didi.